Howdy, y'all. Well, what we did was we switched this a little bit. Chris's voice was going south on him, and so I'm going to do a couple of sessions in a row here real quick, and then he's going to do 12 and come back in, and that way if he collapses at the end of 12, then we're done anyway. So it's okay. It'll work out fine. Works good. All I want to do is sleep right now. It's like I don't understand why you guys didn't. You had the choice. Y'all could have stayed out in the yard someplace and just found a rock to curl up on like that. That's what I'd like to do right now. Me and eating big meals in the middle of the day that's exactly what happens. I'm looking for a blanket right now, and I'm wondering really why y'all are not looking for the same blanket. But what a treat. Somebody needs to take a picture of me and send it to my sponsor in Dallas so that Clifford will know that I'm really here. Sometimes I think he thinks I make this up. I don't know. Good. I want to tell you a story real quick. One thing, I want to make sure that everybody is real clear on this. We've gotten in a habit, because of our experience, we've gotten in a habit of working these steps pretty quickly, and our proteges, the men and women that we carry through this work, we're working them through pretty quick. But remember, there's nothing carved in stone here. If you get you a guy that's kind of dug in and he's kind of moving sort of slow, sometimes it just takes longer. There's not an ironclad thing where you're looking at the calendar going, okay, we got 6 more hours to get you through this thing, and it's going. Don't do that. And I don't want to portray that deal. I'll say that there's a boundary out there someplace. If it's taking you 6 months to get a guy or a gal through the work, perhaps that's too long. And let's look at the possibility of shortening that thing up a little bit for a number of reasons. One of the big reasons is that the quicker you get them through the work, the quicker you have somebody else healthy in the trench with you, helping you carry the message. Which is a cool deal to see a bunch of guys, 3 or 4 generations of guys that you're sponsoring in the same room carrying a message at a treatment center or a wind-up joint is a powerful thing to see. And it's pretty amazing. I've got a guy that I sponsor right now that's probably 28 years old, and he's sponsoring 28 men now. And I'm just as fast as he gets one done, there's another one waiting, and he goes through this thing. It's a constant kind of deal. And over the years, you will find that let me tell you why this is an issue. I see a lot of times men that are older, old dudes like me, that come into AA. I know some of us are still around, but who come in and they, in talking to them, they'll tell you how many people they sponsor because you'll ask them, and they'll say, well, I've only sponsored 2 men. I said, wait a minute, you've been in the rooms for 25 years and you've only sponsored 2 men? And you see a lot of this in the States, a lot. And so what's more healthy, I think, is to begin seeing men who are sponsoring 20 or 30 or 40 men at a time and watch how that manifests over a period of 10 or 15 years. You see what I'm saying? Now you have thousands of people that you have influenced in your sponsorship lineage, and it's an amazing thing to see how this healthy, vibrant army of men and women who are excited about helping others. And remember, the more people that you sponsor means the less that I have to sponsor. And I'm begging you, please take up some slack, okay? This is a good thing. I want to tell you a quick story. But before the break, we were talking about steps 4 and 5, and there's been this conversation over the years about do we work the steps one time, or do we work it a bunch of times, or do we do? And depending on which sponsorship lineage you were in, you tend to gravitate to certain ways of thinking about this idea. Before I get into 8 and 9, I just wanted to give you a quick story about an experience that I had around that idea about whether we work back through this work again. And I come from a sponsorship lineage where you work the work one time, and that's the only thing. You are actively pursuing steps 10, 11, and 12, but we don't, as a general rule, go back and work the work. And I'm a card-carrying member that's the way for many, many years I thought it was best to do. However, about 4 years ago, some of you can relate to this. Some of you won't be able to, and you'll be scratching your head wondering why I'm telling you the story. But some of you guys can relate to this already. We were in Alaska doing a workshop, Chris and I, and the circumstances were weird, and it was either somebody was going to have to take us to the airport at 3:30 in the morning, and then what we decided to do was, what we'll do is we'll just go from the talk at 8 o'clock, we'll just go straight to the airport, and we'll just kind of spend the night sitting in the airport, and then we can meet that deadline to catch that flight back to Texas. And so we're in the middle of this airport in Alaska, in Anchorage, and it's in the middle of the winter, and there's like nobody in that airport. It's just like me and Chris and nobody. It's dead quiet. You can't hear anybody else in the thing like this. And I haven't stopped grousing. I'm judging everybody I know. I'm telling Chris about everybody that I'm sponsoring that I hate. I'm just like this hater. And Chris is just like doing this, just kind of watching me the whole thing. I'm running down the list of every relative, every member of my family. I'm just crucifying everybody. And finally, after about 40 minutes of this, it may have been longer, but after about 40 minutes of it, Chris is just sitting there looking at me and he goes, stop, you're killing me. He said, how long has it been since you did some inventory? And I said, I did inventory when I started working with Cliff Bishop. He said, how long ago was that? And I said, 13 years, I think. And he goes, oh. And he didn't say another word. He's just looking straight ahead. And I go, you reckon I ought to do another inventory? And he said, Myers, you're a fruitcake. You need to do something. And I went, okay. And so I said, okay, I'll do it. So I picked up a piece of paper. It was an envelope. I've come to call them envelope inventories now. They're not big drawn out things. I just flipped an envelope over on the back, took a piece of paper, pencil, and just started writing some stuff down. It took about 15, maybe 20 minutes of writing. Dead silent in that thing. There's finally a guy cleaning the floor with one of those big sweeper things down like this. It's the only other sound anywhere in that airport, and me doing this inventory. And I'm writing this stuff down, and I'm writing, and the more I write, the madder I'm getting, and I'm just, you know what I'm saying? It's just kind of all kind of coming out, and I'm just dumping it on this piece of paper. And so I finally get done, and I set it down, and I just said this little prayer, and I said, Chris, can you listen to this? And he kind of looks around, and he goes like, yeah, I will. Yeah. So can you hurry too? And so I start unloading this stuff. I just start running through this stuff. And guys, I'm telling you, I'm supposed to be healthy, and the stuff that's coming out of my mouth is the most judgmental, vile, off the page stuff you've ever heard in your whole life. I'm just not. First emotion that comes up is I feel like a total and complete hypocrite. I'm sitting here trying to shepherd men through this program, and I am consumed by my own resentments, my own weird way that I've thought about things, and it's just crazy. Well, so this is a short story. I'll finish it up real quick. So I got done with it, and I told Chris, and Chris made a couple of comments, and they weren't really pithy. I thought I was expecting some big drawn out, and it was just, did you see that? Oh, no, I didn't see that. I'll write a little bit like this. And he said, okay, you got that? Okay, good, we're done. It was that simple. And we're sitting there in this quiet airport, not a sound, and I'm looking straight ahead, and he's looking straight ahead. You can hear that guy down there cleaning the floor, like this. And something's different. I swear, it's the weirdest thing. I said, I got to go to the bathroom. So I get up. I don't know why guys always have to announce what they're going to do. There's nobody else in there but Chris and I go, I got to go take a bathroom. So I go to the bathroom, and when I walk into this bathroom, it's like, I can't explain it, guys. I go to the bathroom, and I'm looking in the mirror, and I look different. I look almost respectable, almost. And I remember turning, and I walked out, and as I'm walking out like this, I feel like 1,000,000 pounds has been lifted off my shoulders. I feel like I've been energized in a way that I just have not experienced. I can't begin to tell you how cool it was to be free of that stuff that had been dogging me. Now listen, guys, I couldn't identify before any of that stuff that had been separating me from that sunlight of the Spirit. I could not identify it. I just knew that something was not the way it should have been. I will tell you as a kind of an aside, as I left the bathroom, I must have been grinning like an idiot, because this man had walked in. There was somebody else turned up in the terminal, and this man is walking. I bump into him when I'm walking out of the bathroom like this, and I'm grinning like this, and he's looking over my shoulder to see who else is in the bathroom. It's one of those kind of moments, and I think like this. Something had to be going on in there for a man to be that happy coming out of the bathroom at 4:30 in the morning. But it was amazing, and I was truly transformed. And so my viewpoint on this stuff, guys, has changed somewhat. All this to say, based on what we were studying before the break, before lunchtime, if it's been a while, if you're an old crusty guy like me, or even if you're a guy that's just been around for a while, and you find that that you're struggling, that life has gotten to be a little bit tedious again, that there doesn't seem to be any freedom in the way we're moving through this stuff, perhaps it's time to simply look at the idea of doing some inventory. Now listen, one more thing and then I'm done with this part of this, is if there is resistance on your part to embrace that idea, perhaps you need to look closer. Because if you're like me, when my head says don't do that, that's when I've discovered that that's exactly what I need to do. Don't volunteer for that. I need to volunteer for that. You see what I'm saying? I mean, sometimes my head keeps selling me, 23 years into this deal, my head's still selling me ideas that are not smart, that are not in my best interest. My head is not my friend. And so I as for a lot of us older guys, we tend to, because we've been here a while, we tend to buy into this idea that we've reached some kind of level in AA, some kind of spiritual place in AA. And the trick is, sometimes we have. Sometimes we've gotten real healthy. But what I see more and more and more is, as men and women, we tend to adopt this idea of entitlement. This idea that perhaps you owe me something because I've been here for a while. Or because I've been here for a while, I don't have to set up these stinking chairs. And I don't have to make this stinking coffee. See what I'm saying? We get like that, and these are the ideas that we sell ourselves. But the problem is, it's those kind of ideas that begin to make my world real small again. Instead of being a part of you and one of you, I'm standing on the outside looking in. And it's a pretty... It can certainly rob you of the great joy and the great pleasure of being here in these rooms. There's no special people in AA, guys, I'm telling you. There's no special people. I don't care how long you've been here. There's no guru status. There's no... Matter of fact, if you're in a group where they've elevated you to a guru status, nip it in the bud right now. Nip it in the bud. You just say, guys, I'm just like you. I'm not special. If they part when you walk in, if they give you a special place to sit, change where you sit. Go find someplace else. Go get back on the same level with everybody else that's in that deal, and you will find a sense of joining and a sense of community with a fellowship that is truly, truly amazing. Sometimes we're just our worst enemy around that deal. This deal of 8 and 9, I want to read a couple of things. Don't reach for your book. I'll just read it real slow. There's just a couple of little pieces here. We could get really bogged down. We're not. We could get really bogged down in this talk about 8 and 9. In the States, there's this idea that in sponsorship, well, we sponsor pretty intently through 4, 5, 6, and 7, and then we kind of let guys go. And we kind of let them drift. And it shouldn't be that way. And it's not in my sponsorship lineage. I mean, this is where the men that I sponsor they hate me merciless. I mean, they just hate me because I'm real dogmatic about this. If we're done with 6 and 7 and you're on the spiritual quest to join up and make amends to the people that you've harmed, I'm going to be standing right on your neck. And I'm asking you every week, tell me where you are with this. Tell me where... I saw the list. I help you make it. I know exactly the amends that you owe. And I need to know where you are with this. Because it's your natural tendency, guys, to embrace everything that's easy and push away, ever so gently, from the things that make you feel uncomfortable. Right? And so making an amends to somebody that you still think deep down inside harmed you... This is where we start pushing off. And because there's nobody standing there saying, don't do that, don't push off, A lot of us will get crazy there, and it's funny. I know this because a lot of the men that I sponsor today are retreads. They're guys that have been in the program for 12, 13, 15, 25 years, something like this, and I'm getting them because their life is a mess again. They're falling apart, and they've called me. We get them gathered back up again, and the first thing I ask them is, tell me what you did step work wise. How many men are you sponsoring? And tell me where you are in that amends process. And it blows me away how many men still have amends that they've not made. They still have not. I mean, Mark Houston used to say all the time that this deal about how free do you want to be? And I think that's the question that needs to be asked, guys, because sometimes, listen, this process of amends is transforming in its very nature. And it takes courage, and it takes guts. But it's the greatest example of God's grace and the miracle that reconciliation is that we have anywhere in our program. The process will change everything about you. Those that have experienced that, am I not telling the truth? You spent an entire adulthood being beaten down by something that happened years ago. And you confront it, you take care of it, and then watch how your life is transformed by doing what you did. We'll talk about the mechanics of it a little bit, guys, but more importantly, what I'm trying to get you to see, hopefully, is that the experience itself is worth it. The experience is worth it on two different levels. One, we want to be clear of the problem. None of us likes carrying that kind of stuff inside. The biggest part of this, at the top of page 77, in our translation of this thing, I'm just going to read it. It says, we might prejudice them at the moment we are trying to put our lives in order, but this is not an end in itself. Our real purpose is to fit ourselves to be of maximum service to God and the people about us. We give that a lot of lip service in AA. Do I really think that this makes any difference about what God does or says or thinks? Well, yeah, I don't know where your religious leanings are like this, but go try reading the Bible someplace and see where it is. It seems like you can't even read a verse without getting your nose rubbed in that. Don't you dare come talk to me until you deal with this. Come on, deal with that. We're coaxed continually to go deal with that. And some of us will and some of us won't, and I can't make you do one thing or the other, but I will make an observation, and that's all this is. In this observation, our ability to make amends is directly tied to our willingness. Now listen, guys, willingness is a funny thing. Most of us are willing when we get here, but we make the assumption that the willingness, because I came, the willingness will always be there. And that's not my experience. My experience has been is that the longer you're in this deal, unless you are maintaining that, it'll go away. You'll find yourself one day, you ever notice this? You'll find yourself one day making excuses why you don't need to go to the meeting anymore. Why you don't need to sponsor people. Why you don't need to go to that wind-up joint and carry a message of recovery and hope to somebody else. You see? These are all classic examples of a willingness that's dissolving. And it's pretty scary. And so if you, for some reason or another, manage to get into this amends process and your willingness is waning, going away, God help you. Because I'll tell you what you'll do. You'll do exactly what I did. You'll pick off the list, you'll pick the things that you're willing to make amends to, and then you'll ignore the things that you don't want to make an amends. The people that really harmed you, the people that you think did more harm to you than you did to them, you see. And the struggle, remember guys, the struggle is with your head. Because the story goes back and forth inside your head, and given sufficient time, your head can talk you into anything, even taking another drink. I know you sit here with your resolve now and say, no, it ain't going to happen to me. But you need to stand where I'm standing and talk to as many men as I've talked to over the years, and you'll see it. It's an amazing thing to watch and see. And in the end, we ask these questions. Why? Why did you do what you did? And almost always, it comes back to, relapse is almost always tied to two things. Dishonesty and this idea that I don't have to make those amends. You see? Let's talk about something real quick. I don't know about you guys, but in an amends situation, if somebody's harmed me, I want justice. Right? I want justice. And if you did something to harm me, but let's turn this table just a little bit. Let's reverse it just a whack. What happens when I do something stupid? Any of you guys ever do anything stupid? I mean, come on. I mean, sometimes we say things we didn't intend to say. So, I mean, I know some of you are spiritual giants and you would never go there, but some of us, I mean, we just do crazy things. We say unkind things in a meeting. We jam somebody up kind of hard at a meeting, this kind of stuff. But the thing of it is, when it comes to my attention that I did something stupid, what do I want? Justice? No way. I want grace. I want you to forgive me. Quickly, immediately, if possible. You see, and this is the weird part of the deal. If we look at it from that perspective, we can see how crazy the equation gets. We can see how crazy. If I mess up, I want you to forgive me quickly and show me grace. If you mess up, I want to stand here and judge you and demand justice be served. Demand that somebody pay the price for the egregious behavior. And it doesn't work that way, guys. It just doesn't work that way. What you'll begin to find is that if you were willing to exert the same willingness to offer grace to somebody that harmed you, there's where the magic happens. And I have to say, between us, guys and gals, I wish I could connect that up intellectually and make it work. But I can't. I just simply can't. This is one of those kind of situations where everything in me screams that I want justice. I want him to suffer for what he did to me. I want him to suffer. Anybody that's ever been violated sexually or any of this kind of stuff knows exactly what I'm talking about. I want the SOB to pay for what he did. You see? And so this idea of grace extended. Listen, we'll take a step back and we'll look at it in a bigger picture. Grace extended means that you were saved from a deadly disease by grace, God's grace. There's no other way that happens. We're talking about in theology circles they would call this common grace. And common grace dictates that some of us get it, even good guys get it, bad guys get it, but we all have a chance to get it. You see? I mean, listen, God didn't save me because I was such a great guy. I'm a sorry piece of crap. I'm a bully. I'm a coward. I'm any number of things. You see what I'm saying? I didn't deserve sobriety. I got sobriety because God extended grace to me. And somewhere in there, I have to be willing to accept the idea that I could extend that same kind of grace to somebody who harmed me and simply forgive them. You see? And it's magic. I'm not making light of it, and I'm not saying it's easy. Oh my gosh, I'm not saying it's easy. I know better than that. But I can tell you that the benefit of being... Let me tell you a quick story. It will be quick, I promise you. There was this guy... I got to do this so I'm not offending anybody. Well, okay. There was a guy at a conference one time. We used to have a men's conference. We still do have this men's conference out in West Texas. And there's like 300 guys show up at this men's conference every year. And we know these guys. Chris goes to the same conference. And we've gotten to where we know these men and we love these men. And a lot of us got sober together. We've been doing this. I've been going for 20 years. And so we just know these guys. Well, because it's a men's conference, for years now, there's been these jokes about making the brand new guys that show up wear dresses so we could dance with them at the dance after the talk Saturday night. I know it's sick. I know it's a joke, okay? I mean, nobody's ever done it. It's just like everybody... Anyway, some of you guys really don't think this is funny, but you'd have to be there. So, but I'll get to the point, I promise. So the year that I chair this conference... We all have a day in the barrel. And so the year that I chaired the conference, I had found this little girl's tutu, this little ballet thing. And I just had it up behind the podium like this. And I said, and for some lucky newcomer tonight, this is what you'll get to wear after the deal. and somebody flipped on this little overhead, one of those little balls that rotate on the ceiling like a little disco ball, and these little stars start going around the room like this, and these men fell out. I'm telling you, every man in this room just fell out. We thought it was just a scream. We meant no harm. Well, we harmed them. So after the talk, this guy comes walking up to me like this, and he's mad, really mad. And he walks up into my space. You know what that's like. And I backed up like this, and he's jamming me in the chest like this, and he pushes me off the podium, and he pushes me up against a wall, and he won't back up. And I'm just going like, whoa, 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 whoa. Okay, we can talk, but no more touchy, okay? No more. And he just sitting, and he's just livid. And I asked him what the problem was, and he said I finally got out of it. He was an incest survivor. And I offended him. And I said, "Guy, you have to understand, I promise you, there was never any intention. I will make an apology to you right now, and I'll make an apology to the conference at large tomorrow morning at our kickoff deal. I'll make the apology to the deal." Well, I did all of that, but he wouldn't back off. And so he was angry, and he tried to start something to do in the conference, and then come to find out his doctor, he was under physician's care, and the doctor came up afterwards and told me what a mess I'd created. And I said, how many times can I apologize, and how many times can I say I'm sorry? You see what I'm saying? It was just like I couldn't. I was so sorry that I had said what we said. Well, I asked this guy in private before the deal. I asked him, I said, let me ask you a question. When did this happen? And he said, when I was 6 years old. And I said, how old are you now? He said, 76. And I said, so this happened 70 years ago? And so he said, yes. And I said, okay. I'm trying to figure out why this was such a vehement deal here like this. This deal about forgiving, this is the reason I'm mentioning this. The reason I know I'm going to tie it up here so you guys will know what I'm even mentioning it for. The reason that this is so important is I want you to stop and think about here's a man, 70 years has been carrying something that he had no control over whatsoever. 70 years he's been shouldering this thing. He's still under a doctor's care 70 years into this deal, and he could have handled it with one piece of forgiveness, one piece of grace. He could have been cured, walked away from it. I'm not trying to let the perpetrator off the hook, guys. I'm not trying to say that what happened to him wasn't bad. I'm just saying that as sober members of this deal, as we get healthier mental health-wise, we have to make decisions. And the decision is, am I going to go to my grave hating somebody for something that I had no control over? Or could I just simply extend some grace, extend some kindness, and see what happens? You see, I'm not making light of anybody's dilemma. I'm not, because some of us came through horrible tragedies to get where we got. I'm not making light of that. I'm just saying that these are the decisions and these are the possibilities that our program gave us that other people don't have. We were simply given a great set of tools. If you look back the way the stuff starts, starting on page 76 in our book, we'll run 6 or 7 pages where they do nothing but give us illustrations of what amends look like in different areas. Perhaps there's a divorce. Perhaps there's money issues. Perhaps there's, and it just goes on down the line. Perhaps there's jail. And they list everything that would come up so that we could begin making that amends. So that we could begin dealing with the things that we need to deal with. We all clear on that, guys? We all have, at the beginning of the day, we all have the ability to make the decisions whether or not we want to do this stuff or whether we don't want to do this stuff. And my deal is simply this, is that as we get healthier and as we move back through that inventory that you're getting ready to go do again because you really want to be free, you may find that there are amends in there that never got made that you could make today. You see? It's a funny thing. What I want more than anything is justice. But the idea, there are even times when I'm willing to let God do it. I'm willing to say, okay, I'm going to let God deal with the justice end of this deal. We'll let God shake this stuff out. And then there's still a part of me that wants to go, no. What if He doesn't judge him? What if he doesn't rot in hell? What if he doesn't? I mean, I want him to suffer for what he did, right? I do. And so the trick is that every decision I make around that, every area that I choose to ignore, these are areas that hold me eventually in bondage, and I just get sicker and sicker and sicker. And then I just sort of find myself in this place where I've leveled out smooth, and I don't make any progress. I don't get any healthier. I don't get any, and it's troublesome. It is truly troublesome. I'll tell you what, let's do. This is a great place to do this. Look, rather than take questions right now, because we could do this, why don't we go take a smoke break and a pee break and a sleepy break, if you can sleep that fast, and then we'll come back and I'll hit this 10 and 11, and then Chris will finish us up and we'll be in good shape, okay? Thanks, y'all.